Modular. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Thinking Modular. If you didn't see the previous video, you are welcome to check it out. I can summarize more or less the contents. So in the previous video, I explained the concept behind these compilations of video. One of the core ideas is non-linearity. So thinking about the connections in a non-linear way, and also introducing feedback as a way to generate music materials. Okay. In this episode, I'm gonna enter in a domain of sound synthesis, and I think now the topic itself is gonna start getting interesting, at least in my perception. So the main idea here is to try to create, because I believe that by creating and architect non-linear circuits that are based on feedback, you end up creating a circuit that presents a certain behavior, and it doesn't need any human interaction rather than the parameters that you set at the beginning. And the behavior that it presents is very deterministic, differing from my previous conception that somehow would lead to a sort of chaos and noise that is always related with feedback. But no, it actually presents a certain logic. I have here a Reaktor session, is an ensemble. Okay. I want you to listen for a few moments. So, maybe it's clear from the sound that you hear that the first point is very gestural, and the second is that it presents a certain kind of logic behavior. Okay? And the whole circuit is integrated. I only have one sound source that is a simple oscillator, and the rest is just about using a comparator and a math and a couple of VCAs together with attenuator. Okay. At the final stage, I also have some waveforms, just to give a little bit, to enrich a bit the sound with harmonics. And I also have a filtering, a dual filter here with the delay to create a sort of kind of stereo field. I will explain you later in more detail. I have a few presets, and this is the same ensemble. The only thing that is going to change when I change the presets is the set of parameters that I just mentioned before, that you have to set it, like changing. If you change here, for instance, the rise on this channel, it presents a different. Okay? But is the only interaction that I just presented. Okay, of course I can now have an LFO modulating all these parameters in a comparator. Okay, but I want to keep the things very pure, in a sense that what I want here is a sort of an organism that I'm creating, and it has a certain behavior that is, and if I interact with the organism, he just reply me with a different answer. Okay, I have another preset here. Another one. And another one. So at the end, this is the result on this situation is a very rhythmical one. Okay, so I'm gonna try to while we have this sound. So there is always certain variation, as you can see. So let me just explain you more or less what it's all about. I'm gonna draw. So imagine that you have the basic idea is very simple. Imagine that you have a certain waveform, okay, and this waveform enters in a certain model, okay, and this model has a certain logic behind, okay, and by entering in this room, the signal gets affected and it outputs in a different way, right? And this new result is gonna modulate the FM of this oscillator. It's gonna change on the way. It's not gonna be a sine wave anymore, and it enters again in a room, and then it brings another one, and again. Okay, and this is the main concept, the very basic bare bones idea. So imagine that then you have a second room that somehow is also where you enter here, the sine wave enter here and is also get affected, and somehow this is going to change this room. The information that goes from this room affect this room, and so in that sense there is no linearity here. There is this for instance, maybe I could have my my oscillator, and then have another oscillator that is modulating the FM of these, and then going output, and then I have a LFO here modulating these, but I could still, what I have is a linear path that it goes in only one direction, different from this one. Okay, so I'm gonna explain you very briefly. I'm gonna replicate this patch. Okay, so I have here already an ensemble, so I'm gonna start from scratch. So what I need, let's go directly to the sound. What I need is my sound source. What I want to do, I want to use the most boring it just has a sine wave or a triangle wave or a pulse wave, and then it has you modulate the frequencies as FM, and then you can choose if between exponential, linear, or through 0 FM. As you can see, is a sine wave. Okay. So now what I'm going to bring is something that I really like to use is the comparator. For me, this is one of the most important modules that you should have in your modular system. So if I see on the scope, the good thing of the comparator is that you can pass a waveform through the comparator, and then by changing the threshold you have a different result, right? You just like generating a gate. Every time is higher than the threshold, the gate just open. Okay, so that's why if I have on 0, every time it crosses 0 is where the gate opens and closes. And if I put my threshold higher, it gets narrow. Okay, because then it's just in between these 2 points here. Tuck, tuck. So the threshold line, the imaginary line, is somewhere here. Okay. So, and this is very good because at some point I'm introducing my waveform, and this waveform has a certain reflection on the comparator that I can externally modulate. And then if I connect this directly to the FM and bringing on the maximum, and then I connected the output here, so we already have a very rich sound. Now, I could have an LFO modulating my comparator, right? And then doing certain kind of variations, okay, in order to simulate the previous behavior. But I want to keep it very pure in the sense that I want the machine to play itself, to decide itself by itself what it's gonna do. Okay, so so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring another famous module that is the mathematical, that is somehow related with math and Befaco rampage, and is a dual function generator. And most of the function generators, they have the functionality of slew limiter plus envelope follower. So if I connect my waveform on the input, and I put here on slew, you can see on I'm gonna take now the FM for you to see. If I connect here on the scope, you will see on yellow. Okay, so this is connected in my first channel, and now the waveform is more or less presented in the same with the same characteristics of the input. The output is very similar to the input, as you can see on the waveform, in red the original and yellow the output. But since this is a slew limiter, I can change the amount of rise. So the rising of the ramp, I can delay it. as you can see now. You see, now it's being delayed. And I can also do this with the fall time, okay, delaying it, okay. And this is more or less work like a sort of low pass filter, because as you can see now we have a triangle wave in the rectangle, in the red, and at yellow we have a sort of sine wave, because it's more smooth, the curves. So it will present less harmonics, and since it presents less harmonics, it means that there is a certain low pass filter going there, okay. So in the sense, what I'm doing here is like I'm changing more or less the shape of the waveform, the original waveform, by changing these parameters, but I'm not actually affecting the waveform. I'm just saying, hey, in this room, I know that you are a sine wave, but here you have to change your character. You have to behave in a different way. It's like when you go to a place that you cannot talk loud, or like a library, you have to be quiet, so you change your behavior. Okay? So now, what I'm gonna do is, since I have a dual channel, I'm gonna bring an attenuator. There it is, somewhere around here. Okay, so I'm gonna pass the result through the attenuator, and I'm gonna connect is in the channel A to modulate, so it's already highlighted here. And on the second channel, I'm gonna leave it as a loop, so it's gonna just do the waveform accordingly to the rise time, and as you can see on green, accordingly to the rise time and the fall time. Okay, so now if I put the fall time on 0, is inverted somehow, and I'm just choosing for now that the channel 1 is going to modulate the amount of fall time. Okay, and now if I open my attenuator, now is at 0, so is affecting 0%. If I start opening, you see how we change the waveform is modulating here, and I can, like this, I can control the amount of modulation, 100% or 20%. Okay, and it's very important to have a attenuator, because somehow I can also modulate these. Okay, but today is going to be very simple. Okay, so now, for instance, now I'm gonna use, for the second channel, I'm gonna use a VCA. VCA is very easy to modulate. Okay, it works similar to the attenuator. It's just like a level. Okay, so in my output 2, if I connect on the scope now it doesn't show nothing because it's on 0, but as soon as I amplify it, it starts getting louder. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is that I want my channel 1 to modulate the amount, the level of this waveform. Okay, and it's already flickering here, and I'm gonna put like this, and somehow the way I want these to modulate, I connect on my channel B, and for instance I want these to modulate my fall time. Okay, it can be either in negative or positive range. Okay, yes, now now I have a room, as you can see, presenting a sort of kind of behavior. As you can see on yellow and green. Okay, so it's generating two waveforms that somehow are related to the original one, because the original one somehow is there on the yellow and is affecting the waveform on the loop, on the channel 2 that is on loop. Okay, is that clear? Good. So I have a room with a certain behavior that now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring another VCA, and I don't know if you remember. I can bring it. No, you don't remember because I didn't show. So let me organize the session. So put it everything that is related next to. So now I have the VCA at 0, so it's not is doing any modulation. So now okay. So now what I'm gonna do is that I want to modulate the amount of modulation here. Okay, and this is, I just have to leave this on maximum. Okay, and by bringing a VCA, I can control the amount of modulation. Okay, so I'm going to connect the VCA on the FM, and now as you can see, okay, so now what I'm gonna do is that I want this to be modulated by someone, right? So now I could pick up any one of these channels, but I'm gonna pick up the channel 2 that is on loop and is being affected by the wave. So the loop of the waveform that is in loop is being affecting by these original waveform, because the channel 1 is modulating the channel 2 and the channel 2 modulating the channel 1, so is integrated already. And I'm gonna use these to modulate to modulate the VCA. Okay, and now I have everything completed. Now it's just a matter of trying to find a sweet spot. Let's try to find something. So as you can see, every time I change something, it changes something in the behavior, but then the machine just play by itself. Okay, and again, it's just about to try to find some sweet spot. You can also change the if you want through 0 FM. Okay. Now I just is about experimenting and try to find something interesting. So um, now to enhance a bit the sound, what you can do with these is just to introducing a bit of stereo feel here, is that you can ping a filter, okay? And especially if you use a dual filter. So let's go here to the section of filters, and I'm gonna bring this one here, okay? And I'm gonna connect the one output in the first input and the other output on the second input, okay? And this is just 2 channels, okay? I'm not gonna waste time on the functionality, but you have here, you can modulate the 2 channels, the FMU and FMM2 accordingly. So for this, I'm gonna use the result of this room here that I'm using for the FM1 and the 2 to the FM2. Okay, so it's now is already modulating. And for instance, I'm gonna bring a different mixer where I can work with more channels, this one, and I'm gonna connect the filter one on the left left side and the other one on the right side. And now on my final stage, so now I connect it on the left and I connect it on the right, okay? Left and right, good. And now by pinking you have to put the resonance a bit higher. Okay, you can also so you can bring just a bit. You can choose between high pass filter and low pass filter, okay? But now the 2 channels are just separated, right? So you are introducing a kind of a pitch. Okay. So now, since the 2 channels are very spread and separated to each other, is a bit actually annoying. So to integrate a bit more the sound, what I'm gonna do is to bring a delay, okay, with a very small amount of delay. So I'm gonna go here to effects and I'm gonna look for a delay. Here is a delay, okay? And then what you do is, like, since the filter one is connecting on the left side, then on the delay you connecting on the right side, and the same for the filter 2, you connect on the left. So you are switching the places, and then you connect it back. So now both sounds are in both sides, but with different amount of delay. So now I can take a bit of the feedback, put this on maximum, and change with the milliseconds. So it's a bit more like integrated now. So now we just have to So as you can see, and it goes somewhere. Woo! So as you can see, it sort of presents a behavior every time I change certain parameter. So I think this is actually beautiful, because if you can see, there is only one sound source, and there is two integrators that are somehow changing the character of my sine wave. In this case is a ramp, and the sound is very rich and very gestural in a way. It's like if it has a certain behavior. There is actually, I don't know if you remember from the previous, from the other ensemble that I have here. This one is very repetitive in a sense, but you, by changing the parameters, you can, with some lucky, you can find something that is not as repetitive as this. Okay? See? This is still repetitive, but it has some sign of certain changing here that gives some interesting to the sound. This is basically a kind of a sort of drum machine, let's say. By changing the amount of FFM, you also get different sounds. Look. I almost. And of course, then the goal is not to use interaction, but I don't know. I can also modulate this, but I'm gonna leave for now as simple. Okay? There is ways to actually keep going on with this architecture. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed the video, and that this stimulate your creativity, and non-linear way and feedback, you can achieve very interesting and gestural effects and sounds, very rich sounds on your modular synthesizer. Okay, so I hope you enjoy. You are free to comment, to subscribe, to have your notifications, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, see you, bye bye on the next